The screen, what does it show up there?
What?
The screen.
So, how's it going, guys?
Here you go.
Send it out. Let's all be seen for that. You won't call out.
Oh, okay.
It's gonna probably about 10 minutes or so. I think, yeah. Sorry.
Okay. Be careful what you're saying, Jerry. Because all the-
Two curious questions now.
Hold up and down. See, sir, so if you do something, keep your mouth close to the microphone, so you can hear it. And you could refer it. All right. Let's see what I'm doing. Yeah. All right, thanks a lot.
We'll get their attention.
Oh, for this.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time. Could we have everyone take their seats? Legislators, please have a seat. Yeah, I'll sit down right here.
No.
Boy, we got a big crowd here today.
No.
Go. A big crowd, Bill. They're good people. What are you doing up here? Charge.
I'm whipping you.
Huh?
I'm the lifter.
You're gonna whip me? Well, you better get ready, because I'll lift your ass too.
Sit down, Nelson.
I'll sit over here. Welcome to the Cedar Valley Legislative Public Forum. Co-sponsored by our sponsors are here listed on the board over here. These organizations are all part of the Cedar Falls Waterloo area. You're in the beat back. The forum was started in the 1970s to provide an opportunity for legislators to share information about the issues and legislation, to hear from those who are elected to represent, and to respond to constituents' questions. We have a wave mic.
He's got the video.
We're hearing
the sound.
That's in Surge or something.
Okay. All right, is that better? Okay, I think that took care of it, Mike. Attendees are expected to be civil in their comments. Whoops. Oh, we got. Attendees are expected to be civil in their comments and questions to legislators. 13 legislators, 8 Republicans, 5 Democrats representing the Cedar Valley and surrounding areas are invited to each forum. A big thank you to Mike Dargan, the League of Women Voters, Blackhawk County and Bremer County for helping facilitate the streaming services. The recording will be available on the Cedar Valley Legislative Public Forum website. Thank you for the legislators that are here today. And if we would introduce, we have Representative Jerome Amos, Senator Eric Giddens, Senator Bill Dotzler, Representative Timmy Brown Powers with us tonight, and Representative Bob Cressy. This evening's forum is on the environment. And tonight, our expert speaking on the issue, it's Camiar. Camiar? Up to the mic here.
All right, yes.
I don't have in the slides. This is new to
Make
me.
the microphone a little higher.
There is a little wand underneath.
Is it this?
It's not where we're having a presentation with that. Let me see if I can pull up the PowerPoint here.
Gotta be up on it.
Yeah, it's up. So it's right here. Press on that one.
Yep.
So there we go. And then press on it and then go to
He's got it.
Well, maybe you could do your presentation from right here.
If you just
Yeah.
click on that.
Yeah, just
if
stand
you
there.
then-
Why don't you do your presentation from here? That way you can control the.
Sure. Is it this one? Oh, there you go. Got
And
it.
then go to that one. Okay. Why it's not doing it? Well, it's already up, but let me see. I don't know why. It was up, it was running, everything, so I don't know. You know, the person who, I don't know, it was, how do we, here we go.
Try it again. There, it's on.
I know it's on, but it needs to go to the next one.
Okay.
So if it doesn't move to the next one.
There's the.
Touch screen or?
So here's one thing we can do, here, one thing we can do is we can turn this off. Is it here? Let me just do this. Just do this. And we just, I'm gonna start it again.
Click on that one on the side.
This one?
No, that's the one that's up. Go one down.
Yeah, I mean, it's not changing over there. That's the thing. I don't know what will happen.
Oh, yes.
Remote is working, but nothing, the projector isn't changing. The images aren't changing. So I don't know.
We lost our connection to that. Is that what
I
that?
don't know.
Changing up there now.
Okay, there we go. Hold on, let's see. All right. Okay, so here we go.
You wanna stand here and speak?
There we go. I think we're in good shape. All right. Thank you so much. My name is Kamyar and Cheyenne. I work at UNI. So the work that I'll be sharing with you is really the work of a public university, engaging UNI students and faculty, doing really amazing projects in this region and around Iowa. Okay, so I want to kind of give you
Move that mic up a little higher.
and is that better?
Yeah.
Is that better? Great. So really, a lot of it is acting on what we already know. We already know a lot to take care of things, do a lot of things, show our students that we have agency in our own state and in our own community. So that's really the work that we're doing. So let me, 3 areas: implementing community energy conservation and resilience, strengthening our food system, and improving environmental health. I'll give you examples of the kind of work we're doing, and I'll be as quick as possible. So you can see we offer home energy audit to any home in the Cedar Valley. We have partners all over the state. We trained young people who join us from all over the country, but about half of them from Iowa, and to do home energy audits and then offering their labor to fix it. And so we've done hundreds and hundreds of homes all over Iowa, And these are kind of, you see, these are our host sites. These are where we place AmeriCorps members and UNI students and others to work in these communities, work with our partner host sites to do the kind of work we just described. Other things we do, we work a lot of in partnership with communities like Waterloo, Cedar Falls, Hudson, other communities, building neighborhood resilience. In this case is a neighborhood, Walnut Neighborhood Association. We worked with them, developed a plan in places where trees are missing. For last 4 years, we've written grants, have secured funds, and have actually planted trees in these neighborhoods. Going from a neighborhood like this to this takes a lot of planning, a lot of thinking, and that's what we do. We actually we're very applied. We get things done and we involve the community members. So that was our work in home energy conservation, tree planting, improving the neighborhood. The next area I want to kind of share with you is our work statewide in improving child health by not exposing them to preventable exposures. It's possible in schools, childcare centers, parks to manage the ground in ways that do not use harmful chemicals. We have a statewide work. By the way, there's a ton of evidence, medical evidence, and you're just saying there's in neurodevelopment of children that we don't need our children to be exposed to these very harmful chemicals. I'm just quickly, it's just like there is so much evidence, and it's really, I know none of the legislators here have had anything to do with it, but the state Senate just recently passed a bill and forwarded it to the House that prevents anybody to sue the chemical companies that sell all of these pesticides in Iowa.
That's been passed out of the committee. It's still got to go to the floor.
Wonderful. So hopefully.
Get through the one.
Yeah. So anyway, there's a lot of evidence, and we're very active. Again, this has to do with urban chemicals. And here's the American Academy of Pediatrics saying children's exposures to pesticides should be limited as much as possible. And we're acting on that. And how are we doing this? We're actually working with school districts, with actual parks, actual childcare centers to show. This is East High School, Iowa City High School. They've been managing their grounds without pesticides for years. This is Dubuque has committed lots of parks, Cedar Falls, Waterloo, lots of places have committed to create their communities more healthy for children. And this is just a simple thing. We already know that all of Iowa's state parks, none of them in mowed areas go spray anything. They just mow. We work with them. And here's an example of Iowa City, all the institutions in Iowa City that have committed to manage their turf without harmful chemicals. That's the kind of outreach we do with our students, with our faculty. It's really very applied. It's really amazing. Look at this. These are the ground staff of Iowa City Community Schools. They committed to like 92 acres of lawn that they're managing without pesticides. And the impact of our work has been amazing. How many childcare centers have committed, how many schools. That's the kind of environmental work we do in Iowa. Again, and then we know a bunch of lawn areas can be converted to native Iowa vegetation as well. So the last part I want to talk to you about is the project we're doing that's so exciting, which all has to do with improving access to good food in our communities. So we started a garden starter services. Anybody who wants a backyard garden, we go and help till their backyard, have starter plants and seeds for them. And we've started that 4 years ago. We're in our 4th year. It's incredible. These are UNI students, AmeriCorps members, and myself going out there tilling people's backyards, and it has been amazing. We show we've reached a lot of, we've installed 144 backyard gardens. I'll show you. This is our truck coming up with plants that local farmers have raised. We have seeds for them. And then the families, their kids, everybody, we leave an hour later, they have a vegetable garden. These are first-time gardeners. Just incredible, just incredible. Look at this. This is our metro area in 3 years, installed 144 gardens. And here is the map of those who have applied for this year. We have 86 people applying, wanting gardens. And we're busy. We're like gearing up to do this. Obviously, I would say mid-April we'll start. But here's what I want to say about what is the significance of this. Yes, yeah, we're trying to renew a culture of backyard gardening among anyone who is interested, right? We know that culture existed. We want to renew it. We want to get a lot more people to do this. What I find, I personally have been very involved in this, and what I find it amazing is that this brought our students in, it's trust building, relationship building, what we share in common, which is love of good food and health, right? We have so much in common. We have so much in common, and projects like this bring us together. So that's what I love about this. So this all has to do with food security, making our regions more food secure. I've had the honor of being the garden manager at People's Clinic, and it has been just amazing. All the vegetables we produce go to the patients of People's Clinic. It used to be just a lawn sitting there, and now it's a very productive garden. A lot of people come and volunteer there. And again, and you can see the people, UNI students, AmeriCorps members, everybody, they learn so much about their own community, that there are people in need of food, and good health is always, again, what we share. Our latest project that's very exciting is we have many immigrants and refugees who came from rural areas. They love to grow food, but where is access to land? How do we make it easy for them to feel at home? They're here, they can develop roots in our community and connect to us. Well, we worked with the Waterloo Parks Department, and we found a park, Highland Park, what you see here. And we worked with them, signed an agreement. We took about 3/4 of an acre, turned it into 48 large garden plots. Amazing. People, it got snatched up just like this by neighbors at Highland, by recent refugees from Congo and from all over the world. And all of a sudden, again, the land brings people together. We're loving it. And this is all last year, last growing season. We converted that to immediately. People just started growing vegetables, just like incredible, just incredible. So we're right now partnering with the Waterloo Parks Department to replicate this in 2 or 3 other parks. So to sum up, this is my last slide. To sum up kind of what we do, we consult with Iowa communities, see what they need. We're again, a public institutions to help and partner with our communities. We do energy conservation and renewable energy. When I worked with Senator Giddens, we had a solar group buy in our community where we encourage many people to go together and install solar in our metro area. Obviously, we're very involved in strengthening the local food economy of our region. We want many more farmers. We want many more food buyers to buy food. By the way, I neglected to mention that our food access program, we're really collaborating with the Blackhawk County Soil and Water Conservation District. They're helping a lot of farmers as well, aspiring farmers to have access to land. It's really wonderful. And the last area, again, improving environmental health of our community. So these are the 3 things. I'll just give you a sense of, this is our staff, this is us, a group of us that work at UNI, and we have to kind of our funding, about 10% of it comes from UNI. The other 90% we have to raise every year. We write for grants, we have foundations, we constantly are hustling to do the kind of community work that makes Iowa a better place. So that's kind of a summary of our work, and I really appreciate having a chance to tell these stories to you. Thank you so much, and I'm so grateful for all of our legislators here. It's awesome. Thank you.
How do people get a hold of you?
Thank you, thank you. I'm here, I'll give my email and phone number. Yeah, totally. Add you and yeah, but I'll be here. I'll be happy to. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kavir. See if I can get this back to the.
I think this was a first for us. First time I ever, somebody from a speaking, that speak up here.
Yeah, that's
We had our slideshow, it was good.
very good.
Gotta be flexible. What do you gotta do now?
I don't know if I can get this thing to exit and then eyes. There we go. All right, we're good. So at this point, we want to talk with legislators and have some response on the issue tonight. So let's start here. Representative Cressig.
Okay, can you hear me? I think, is the mic on or? Okay.
Yes.
Well, I appreciate, here we are, getting toward the end of March. And, we're having some good discussions, Kamiar, I've known you for a while and I appreciate all the things that, you've done at UNI and across the state, so improving, our environmental issues, our water quality. I actually serve on the Environmental Protection Committee. And this year we passed out one bill out of that committee. You know what it was? The raccoon bounty. No, I mean, literally, that's all we did in that committee. And I guess that's eligible for debate coming up. So basically, it's supposed to help protect the environment. I can't get anybody to explain to me how that's gonna do that. But, if you catch a raccoon, you can cut the tail off and turn it into a county official. They will give you $5 for that coon tail. What do you think of that, folks?
So, raccoon continue to live?
No, they don't.
Tailless.
Yeah,
Well, there's no proof of that, though.
it's an Iowa
Flaw in
raccoon.
the bill. That is.
Well, I imagine you could probably load them up in Illinois or Minnesota and bring them in and get credit that thing. So that's primary. We really haven't addressed those types of issues, water quality, soil conservation. You know, they had a bill down there that would prevent some of the groups that deal with soil conservation. They were gonna prevent them from providing those services. Yeah. I just shook my head. So, and they had a bill early this year also that would restrict certain aspects of the counties to establish, land for trails, for parks, for all those things. And thankfully, that bill didn't go forward this year, but, you know, I'm just hopeful. It seems like the Ag and Natural Resources Committee in the House does more things with this than what the Environmental Protection Committee does. So, that's kind of the status, that we're facing. And of course, yesterday was the AEA bill. I'm sure you've all heard about that. That was a bad approach to framing a bill and running it on the floor. I mean, literally, that's what they did. We didn't even have a chance really to look into it for, what do we have, like an hour?
Hour and a half.
Hour and a half to look at the thing, well, to debate the bill.
and then they time certain. So, I'm just hopeful that environmental issues are focused. What we're seeing, and particularly with the drought that we're in right now, we're in an aquifer here in Iowa, and we have an underground storage place for water. But there's several communities that use surface water for their water. And, if you look at the rivers, we're in extreme drought. So I appreciate, Kamiar's, piece, and then I'm sure the carbon pipeline is gonna be another discussion today. So look forward to hearing from everybody. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here with us tonight. Camiar, thank you. I always enjoy everything that you do for our communities and the surrounding communities. Love the People's Clinic Garden. I got to come out there with you, and that's fantastic. And that puts food in, in those patients and those families. They come out there and they pick fresh food and they take it home and eat fresh food. So, and I know you've been instrumental in the urban gardens as well. And that's been fun to tour. I've done the bike rides and done the tours, and we have great people doing great things in Waterloo, and I think we don't want to fall short of that. And get discouraged about what the state isn't doing, because the state isn't doing anything for natural resources and water or those kinds of things. But we are very fortunate locally to have, fantastic people doing fantastic things. And we have, because of Camiar and others, and we've got a lot of young people that are really vested and very, very willing and wanting to get involved and to help make our community healthier. So, and the reason I asked for contact, just because I would like to just share that stuff in our newsletter coming out of the state, kind of highlight what maybe we're not doing from the state level, but what we are doing from the local level. And I think that's important for people to understand, because they look to us because they think that we should be doing something. But I really want folks to know that local leaders have stepped up and they are doing good things. And even though we're not doing anything. And natural resources. So I'm on natural resources, and we just deal with fishing, hunting, bows and arrows, and the Iowa State Horse last week. So
Yeah.
that was our big,
Yes.
yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. So last week was kind of I don't know, last week and this week have been a bit frustrating, but last week, I think on our last forum, I talked about the PMIC bill that we had passed out of the House. That was a good bill for kiddos, and I'll get there, guys. That was great. And then last week was funnel week, just to remind everybody. So last week, Wednesday, Senator came over and said they gutted that bill. It's in the Senate. It's dead, basically. And so on Thursday, I'm headed to natural resources. And I thought, God, that's weird that we're going to natural resources, because we heard from a lot of great presenters that what we need to do, but we didn't do anything. My staff came up and said, the Senate has a priority in natural resources. And I thought, well, that'd be great. It was the Iowa horse. So it's the American cream draft horse. And that was the priority. So on Wednesday night, they killed the PMIC bill, and then the Senate Republicans priority for natural resources on Thursday morning for me was the horse. And not that this pretty horse, I don't really care 2 cents about it, but it showed you the priorities. And that's what I'm kind of pointing out. That's where the priorities are right now. It's just a bit hazy. So anyway, back to the great things that we're doing locally. And thank you for doing what you do, Jerry and Camiar. And I know there's many others that are following in your footsteps. And the pesticides, and I'd love to pick your brain about that a little bit more, because in my other job, I have clusters of folks in rural areas that I believe it's a pesticide issue. Breast cancer patients and some other types of cancers. And so I would just love to pick your brain, because I just feel like that's probably where this is coming from. And I don't know if we're absorbing it, or if we're drinking it, or inhaling it, but I do know that I have a lot of patients in areas that it seems like that is maybe the root cause. So another reason to kind of share your contact information. So thank you guys for being here. Appreciate seeing everybody, and I'll pass it on to Senator Dotson.
Thank you. Well, I'm kind of shocked about the American dream. I was the only person that voted against it in the Senate. And I did a little research about it. First of all, we have like the state flower, the wild rose. That's not species specific. Most people think it's the prairie rose, but there's a lot of other wild roses in Iowa. Then we have the oak tree, which there are, I think, 11 different species of oaks in Iowa. And so that's not species specific. Then we have the state geode, state rock, the geode. And then we have also the state bird, which happens to love thistle seeds. And so I kind of think that there's a reason why that beautiful little yellow and black bird got to be the state bird. And I think a lot had to do with weeds. So anyway, the American dream draft horse never existed before the 1940s. And it just so happened that these people were breeding draft horses, and a female with evidently very dominant genetics, every single one of her offspring came out with this kind of a cream, reddish tint to it. And I think there's less than 500 of these draft horses existing in the world. And so, they called it, I think, Old Grandma was the name they gave to this draft horse. But it does so happen that somebody breeds them here just south of Crossroads, right off of one of those roads. So the guy sent me a bad letter, and I said I'd go out and look at him. I promised him I wouldn't lobby the House. So we got that.
For the horse.
Yeah, everybody, what are you gonna do? Yeah, so anyway, but because I can't get a state fossil, we were looking at crinoids, which are, they're very important. We can't get a state fish.
I know.
That pioneers used the catfish probably more than anything. So anyway, a little frustration there. So anyway, now I got an excuse to beat him up with the crinoid thing. So that's coming. I actually bought some crinoid fossils to show people. I spent $300 on a slab that came from a quarry in Iowa. So anyway, okay. So Tamia, I was looking at your slides and you were talking about the effects of chemicals on children, and there was a whole bunch of little articles. Can you send me those immediately? Because that might come up Monday. So what that bill is, it's sponsored by Roundup Bear Company, which is a company that's owned by Germans. They bought the Monsanto Roundup stuff. And the bill basically is stopping any lawsuit, not just from Roundup, but any chemical, pesticide, any herbicide, any chemical that's applied to plants to kill bugs or to use as a defoliant to kill weeds or whatever, that there'll be no lawsuits at all as long as that chemical had EPA label on it. Now, an EPA label doesn't necessarily mean that it's safe. In fact, I had a poster that I held up in committee that said, DDT, it's good for you. And it was something that was approved by the Environmental Protection Agency back then. And it showed a mother feeding a baby with a baby bottle and happy cows and chickens, and I said, we about lost the symbol of America, the American eagle, over this stuff, and plus all the other problems. But But also in that, there's Chem China, which makes paraquat. And paraquat, you might have heard about it back in the mid-60s. They were defoliating marijuana in Mexico. And they were spraying it like they used to spray DDT here in Iowa to kill mosquitoes. And if you're old enough, you probably remember the planes flying over Waterloo, spraying DDT, and my mom had to run out the line and get her clothes off, so our clothes hide, here they came, a whole mist, so it just shows you how ignorant and science doesn't keep up with, the Environmental Protection Agency don't keep up with science. So anyway, China recognized that causes some serious diseases and lymphoma. Excuse me. Lymphoma is Roundup, and Parkinson is the other. So were you in the committee when we argued this, Tom? Yeah. So anyway, they outlawed it in China, but it's okay here to sell it in the United States. So the thing that I was very concerned about was Cedar Falls High School seniors about 3-4 years ago did a project, and you might have been aware of it, but they found out that rural schools, the children in there have some of the highest rates of cancer in the United States. And so a lot of it had to do with drift. So, you can control the stuff in our town, but when they're out there on a windy day spraying it, it comes in. And I have a plant, fleabane that's got pretty good flower to it. And all of a sudden, bee-bane, I said the wrong thing, bee-bane. And it's got a beautiful red flower. And all of a sudden, one day here a year ago, all my leaves wilted. And they're very susceptible to these herbicides. Well, it was a windy day, and they're out there spraying and it drifted. And I live right across from the aisle on the Cedar, and that was coming into our neighborhoods in town. So anyway, we're fighting this bill, but they got it all stacked up against us. The Farm Bureau, the Biotechnology Association, the Chamber Alliance, the business communities. They got every lobbyist up there, and environment doesn't have any lobbyists. It's us. We're the lobbyists, the Democratic legislators. So that bill's probably going to go through, but I'm just going to raise as much hell as I can. So I tried putting a bill in that would say that you couldn't spray in more than a 10-mile-an-hour wind. And Bob knows about riding ragbri and training. You're out there and it could be 15, 20 miles an hour and they're still spraying. And you got to go like hell try to figure out if that tractor when he makes his turn, if you're going to make it through that cloud or stop or what to do. But they wouldn't take it up. They don't take up anything that has to do with water quality. Farmers, God love them, we need them, but you've shown that there's ways that you can do this stuff without all those chemicals. And unfortunately, they're not going to do it. And then you heard just recently, 50 miles of river completely obliterated of all life because somebody left a fertilizer hose on that ran all weekend and they found it Monday. 340,000 gallons of fertilizer, liquid fertilizer, was dumped into a river, as a creek that went into a river, and it killed everything, every living thing in it. So, and I don't know what's the downstream effect. Anyway, I could go on forever on this stuff. It is so wrong. And I hope you can get me that information and we'll make another fight. It's be my fifth time fighting in committee. It died in committee and they brought it up in appropriation. And it has no appropriation in it. So it died in committee under the funnel and they put it in appropriation and restarted it. And you know where the appropriation is? It's the money that goes to legislators for voting for this. That's the appropriation. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator
That
Dawson.
square means that you're supposed to.
I saw it, Bob. Oh, I didn't know you saw it.
Senator Giddens.
Thank you all. Appreciate all that. Bill, he's our comedian and he's our biologist, so we appreciate all his contribution. I want to thank Kamyar. I used to work with Kamyar at the Center for Energy and Environmental Education at UNI. He's been a mentor on these issues for me. Really appreciate his expertise. I ran a community energy and climate action planning program there at the center when I worked there. And so when I got elected to the Senate, I was very interested in, trying to find a way that I could work on those issues in the Senate. And in the House, they have a committee called Environmental Protection that Bob talked about. They did one bill this year and it was about raccoon tail bounties, that kind of thing. So there's not a whole lot going on over there with environmental protection. We don't have an environmental protection committee in the Senate. We have one committee called Natural Resources and Environment. And it is kind of similar to the Natural Resources Committee in the House. It's basically a hunting and fishing regulation committee. So most everything that goes through there are those kind of things. So I didn't see much work happening that I could jump into on that committee. Turns out the Commerce Committee is the committee that works on utilities regulation. So I wasn't able to get on that committee immediately, but after one cycle, I was able to get on the Commerce Committee and kind of dive into that work. And then I was eventually able to become the ranking member of that committee. So I'm the top Democrat in the Senate on the Commerce Committee. And why that's important, so looping back to climate change and what we need to do, we know that, huge contributor to climate change is burning fossil fuels. And a lot of that goes to create the electricity that we use, right? We've made huge strides in moving forward with renewable energy and zero emissions technologies, including nuclear, which actually there's a big kind of issue right now with folks who remember the days when nuclear was terribly dangerous, but now how do we use new, really advanced nuclear technologies to try to get us to a zero emissions future? That's a part of this whole thing too. But what we need to do to advance forward and really get down to net zero emissions is we need new policies. We're working with 100-year-old policies which were set up when our utilities grid was new and we were trying to figure out how to electrify this country. Those are still the policies that kind of govern what we're working on now in a totally new era of electricity production and distribution. So a lot of this work is at state level. A lot of it is federal as well, but a lot of it is state level. So we've got states across the country who have made huge changes. Iowa, although we are a leader in renewable energy, make no mistake, that is great. We still haven't done a lot of the things that need to happen regulatorily to move really into an advanced clean energy future. And so we're working on that stuff now, and that is good. That's good work. Last year, I'll go back to last year, the utilities companies were kind of, I'd say, concerned about some of these things potentially coming because they would change the way that they do business. That's ultimately what's going to have to happen is our big utilities companies are going to have to change, the way that they operate. So they were concerned and we're kind of pushing some policies that would really sort of codify more strongly the way that they've been doing business in the past. And we have other groups, consumer advocate groups and environmental groups that were looking for some reform. So both of these groups are coming at the same code section or in our state code, trying to kind of wrestle over what sort of changes they could make. Legislators, I was included in that group. I work really well with our chair, Senator Waylon Brown. We decided that we were going to step back and not do anything last year, that we would commission the Iowa Utilities Board or tell the Iowa Utilities Board to do a study, to do over the interim, a really inclusive, broad-based stakeholder participatory process study to come back and tell us, the legislators, what we really need to do to move forward. So they hired a consultant over the interim last year. Really great firm. They led this wonderful process. All the interested stakeholders were involved. Came back with a report that gave us a roadmap for what we need to do to move forward. And it really is a set of really great recommendations. Now, if we could just take that report and turn it into state law, that'd be perfect. That doesn't always work that way. You got people in the legislature and the lobbyists are all back in the building again, still kind of fighting over what parts of that report become state law and what parts, don't. So we do have a couple of different bills that are working on sort of the highest recommendation out of that report, and that is something called integrated resource planning, which is a really sort of technical thing, but it is the first step in what needs to happen to move us down the path of changing the structure of how our utilities operate in the state, which will really have an impact in continuing to drive down emissions. So still a work in progress, even though we're late in the session. There's a couple of different bills. They're both alive. We're working on how to hopefully come up with a solution that will get us to that point of this first step in this long process. So without diving into the details of what integrated resource planning is, just trust me, it's a good thing. We need to do that first so that we can move forward into this clean energy future in the way that we need to. So I wanted to also mention one other thing that I think this group would find interesting. It kind of caught me by surprise. If you're familiar with PFAS, which are chemicals, it's a class of chemicals that are called forever chemicals, and that's because they persist in the environment. They don't break down. They last forever, basically, and they do have negative effects on human health and other environmental problems. PFAS is used in firefighting foam. That's one of the primary ways it's introduced into the environment. There was a bill that popped up out of nowhere this year in the state government committee to essentially tell local governments that they can no longer use PFAS in firefighting foam, which is a kind of big deal. And it would be in some ways very progressive environmental legislation to ban the use of PFAS at the local level for firefighting. I was assigned to that subcommittee. I'm in the state government committee, so it was very interesting to me. And the two Republicans were also very interested in the topic. What happened in the subcommittee was the firefighting community is very much in favor of this because it is detrimental to their health. They would like to see a ban on PFAS. However, we have folks at airports who came and said, this is the most effective tool we have in controlling fires that can occur in planes, very, emergency type situations with big metal tube with hundreds of people in it. We need to put out a fire. So you're left with this Sophie's choice in a way. If we're going to do aviation, we're potentially exposing lots of people to very dangerous situations if we ban the use of PFAS, or if we allow PFAS to continue to be used in firefighting foam. We're exposing our firefighters who work with this stuff every day to cancer and other health issues. So the bill didn't advance it. We got it out of subcommittee, but it wasn't brought up in committee. But just the fact that it was introduced is kind of an interesting development. It's the first step in a discussion about the topic. Again, it kind of took me by surprise. I didn't know that was going to come up, but I would expect that there will be further conversations about PFAS, because it does seem that there's really some interest in working on trying to figure out what can be done to limit the use of PFAS in the state. Maybe not totally eliminate it, but maybe limit its use. So I just wanted to bring that one up. The pesticide immunity's been talked about, and stormwater regulations. I know there's a bill that came from the Senate, went over to the House, and you guys had a weird situation over there where the vote actually failed on the floor, I believe, but then was brought back up again later, and so that passed, and that's a bad bill. Some of you are familiar with that, I think. But those are kind of the top level issues I think that I've been involved with or know about right now. Am excited about this integrated resource planning stuff for utilities regulation. I really hope we can get it done before the session ends. So thank you.
Representative Owens.
Good evening, everyone. Once again, sitting here before you, didn't make it to the last one. That was my fault. But we're talking about environment today, and it's really interesting. Hearing Senator Dosman talk about the Senate file bill that's out there. I believe it's 2412. Reason that I know that is yesterday I was sitting in our caucus room waiting for caucus to start, and there was a few hours I was sitting there, but this older lady came in the room.
Oh, yeah.
And she was there by herself. Yeah. And she was basically an environmentalist, I guess is the best way to put it. But she started talking about, Eric, what you were just talking about, or Senator, what you were just talking about is the PFAS thing. The firefighter foam, but she left me a piece of paper, and in that paper, it talks about the PFAS. And it says nearly half of all US drinking water may contain toxic forever chemicals. But it's not just used for firefighting foam in airports, it's used in a lot of different industries. And it's in our drinking water. Representative Presley talked about aquifers. Well, according to this woman, the PFAS are in our aquifers also. She has actually had a Supreme Court case that didn't get filed in a timely fashion, so it was not considered. But she has actually, when I was talking with her, she was talking about how in the rural areas and things like that, this AEA thing that's going on, and our special education children and all of those things. And she tied in all of these different chemicals that are in our environment are probably a lot of the causes of the things that are happening to our children. So all of these things are really tying in together. And unfortunately, the other side is playing politics with this stuff instead of looking at the needs of our people. And I'm seeing this, I'm one of those people. I come from a factory environment and everything else, and I get really upset when I see the things that are going on from a standpoint of not addressing the needs that are out there. She was talking about Bayer, the aspirin maker. They are part of the group who are a lot of these chemicals and stuff that are coming from. And now we see this bill coming up to where individuals are not going to even have the ability to get financial recourse behind the things that are happening. You're not going to be able to sue. You're not going to be able to hold people to task for the things that they're doing to the environment and to people. It's just, we've got to figure out a way to get people to understand that our leadership is not taking us Iowans to heart. I firmly believe that. I see that, the AEA bill last night, yesterday. We got that bill, I believe it was like 55 minutes or something like that, the amendments, and had 49 pages, had to go over them. And then we find out that Representative Kresick said time served. Well, time served means they can make a rule to where you can only debate something for a certain period of time, and then you are cut off and you have to take the vote. Well, realistically, we already knew where the vote was going because from what I've seen, everything that comes to the floor of the House, they already know they have the votes to get it passed. Last week, we had the one where they thought they had the votes, and then they found out they didn't have the votes. But they followed another rule to where all it takes is for someone on the majority side to vote no to get it reconsidered. And that's exactly what they did. They played the politics in order to give them time to put pressure on individuals to vote the other way, or wait for individuals who weren't there to come back and vote. Those are the things that are happening down there. Am I frustrated? Yes, I am. But I'm gonna run again, because I firmly believe that there's gonna come a point in time where there will be people down there who are gonna take all of us citizens' best interests at heart. Like I said, I'm not on any environmental committee. The committees that I'm on are helping people. I'm on local government, public safety. Representative Kressick is the lead Democrat on that. But it's just, for me, we have to start getting people involved. And I'm talking to the people out there because I'm preaching to the choir in here. I know that, I understand that. But we have to get people involved. We have to get them to understand that it's time to pay attention to what is going on around you. Pay attention to the people who have the ability to impact your lives. You know, so as far as the environment, like I say, many different things going on, and I find it really interesting that this woman just happened to show up, and I was the only one in the room, and she started talking to me. And she said, I'm the only one who's talking about this. You know, we don't have any environmental lobbyists or anything else. Why not? Our drinking water, all of these things are so important. I mean, you can't survive without water. And if our water is contaminated, if it is not what it needs to be to provide us with healthy drinking water, then we need to do something about it. We need to make sure that the dollars are there. When I hear we have all of this surplus and we have so many needs and wants and desires that are not being taken care of, that's a problem. And it is. You know, I'm running again. From everything I understand, I don't have an opponent. That's fine. But we have to get our citizens involved. That's where the difference is going to be made, everyone.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we're now to the point for questions from the audience. We have a microphone over here. Jim?
Thank you for your service. My goodness, it's a tough time down there. I'm Jerry Thorsberry. I'm honored to serve as the chair of the Black Hawk Soil and Water Conservation District. And we are fighting so hard for water quality and improving the soil health. So, Mr. Gotzler, the Senate file is 2642 about adding soil health to chapter 161A.
Not sure about that number because the soil health thing didn't come through the committee that I'm on. It was agriculture committee, so I don't know which committee it's on. You probably have a better idea of the number.
Yeah, I think it is 2642, but I don't know where it is on that. It just seems so incredulous to us that soil health would not be something that Iowa really cared about to have in the code, so we have more strength behind us. And one more thing, the conservation districts of Iowa, which is the association that represents the 500 elected commissioners in Iowa, we have a lobbyist, Jim Obradovich.
Yeah.
And he
They
does.
just had a meeting up with that. Too.
Yeah.
The legislative thing. Down in the Rotunda.
Right, we were there.
Yeah.
We were there.
I was there too.
I know. Yeah. So, okay, so you don't know what the status of that.
What number do you
I
think?
think it's 2642.
Senate file or House?
Senate file.
I just looked that up and it doesn't look like that's it.
Sorry.
I'm trying to find it.
2624. 26 something.
2614 maybe? No,
They kept changing the file.
oh, it's House file 2642.
Still House file? Oh.
Could be in the Senate though.
Yeah, like when it passes the House, comes over to the Senate, it's still a House file.
Okay.
We would be voting on it as a House file. Yeah.
Looks like that's what it is.
Okay, so it went under that appropriations thing, so that's why it's still alive?
Ways and means.
Oh, it's in ways.
Appropriations.
I should get it then. I'm on Ways and Means.
Good. Maybe
So-
we'll help definition.
Microphone.
One of the real problems with following these bills is they get their numbers changed when they're in the subcommittee, they change. And so it's hard. But if you look for a title, you can search under a topic. You know, the topic will lead you a lot of times to the bill.
Thank you for all you do.
Thank you for all you do, Jerry.
So. That woman that Jerome talked about, I believe she was a water commissioner from Wapello. And she had a little difficulty with understanding the difference between a subcommittee and a committee. And they had to bring somebody from the Senate to sit by her because during the committee, she wanted to get up and speak, and she was waving hands, and she's quite the character, and she's very intelligent, but I would say she's in her high 80s, maybe 90s, and a little spitfire. And I saw her all over the Capitol. Anybody that would walk by, she would grab.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what happened to Jerome.
She walked right into our.
She just goes wherever she wants. And you gotta love her for it, but you know, it's too bad that, you know, people like that, you know, we don't have more people that are committed to lobbying like that. And Obradovich is a very good guy and a good lobbyist. And so they had never really been on a committee where they could, you know, talk in. And part of the problem is a lot of those bills, most of the time, back a few years ago, people were either for it or against it, and there were a few people monitoring the bills. Well, now, because people and lobbyists have been threatened when they were against bills, this is the gospel truth. I know more than one incident where somebody said, if you don't get off against my bill, I'll make sure anything you work on is killed. And so now, if you can't judge between, are they against it or are they just monitoring? And you go into committee and they'll talk like they're monitoring, but they'll talk against the bill. But we're really not, you know, we're just expressing some thoughts. So it's really tough for anybody to stick their head up out of the hole without it getting kicked.
Jerry, that is, God, this mic doesn't like me. That bill is gonna come through appropriations with me on the House side for Rexon and Monson. So I found it and but we haven't assigned it to a subcommittee yet.
Yeah, but you got something to tell you. She just abuses the microphone.
True. Additional
Okay, keep
question.
moving.
Is that woman Veronica?
I can't move. It might be. See what you did. That was fine. There you go.
Hello. Bill, I'll let you take care of it.
You have a dime? You have a dime?
I don't need a mic either.
Julie's at the mic.
All right, Jim.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm Julie Johnson. I'm a resident here of Waterloo, and I've spoken often about the hazardous carbon dioxide pipelines. But I want to touch upon a couple of things that all of you mentioned. First thing I need to let you know, though, is we did have a victory with the Iowa Utilities Board. They vetoed all of the upcoming informational meetings. That was the information that I handed out last time. They were supposed to start in March, or no, in April and May. All of those have been denied. They denied those. That is a huge victory for us. Somebody finally listened. 2 of the board members listened. Josh Burns and Sarah Martz. They said, that's when farmers are in the field planting their crops. How are they supposed to go to informational meetings in the middle of the day? Eric Helen was the chair, and he was the only one who voted in favor of all those meetings. So they will not start now until sometime in June. But you can be sure I will email all of you the complete schedule so that you can attend them. Talking about aquifers. That is a huge issue with the carbon dioxide pipelines. Those of us against the hazardous CO2 pipelines are having a rally at the Capitol next Tuesday. And I will, yeah, you have all received an invitation for that. I haven't seen the exact information that our leader, Jess Mazur, sent, but I assume it has a full schedule. We have the lobby, the Rotunda in the afternoon. We will have presentations. If any of you are at the Capitol, please come to our presentations as well. I am working on a presentation about water and the effect that the hazardous CO2 pipelines have on aquifers and our water supply. I don't know if you've heard, but the town of Osceola, the mayor has now asked that people buy bottled water to drink, that they not use water out of the tap. That is how serious our water situation is. I looked up the other evening what the status of the problem is in Black Hawk County. 100% of the population in Black Hawk County is affected by drought or drought situations. 100%. And that was really scary. It's like, okay, does that mean people stop watering their lawns, stop their individual pools to have in their backyards? You know, what are we gonna have to do? But I think people really need to wake up. It's interesting that all of the lobbyists for pesticides, herbicides can lobby for indemnity so they won't be sued. But yet those of us fighting against the carbon dioxide pipelines can't get a bill passed to protect us against being sued by Summit or whoever. Because what we found out is if there's a pipeline rupture on a farmer's land, he can sue Summit Pipelines, for example, but then their insurance company will turn around and sue the individual farmer. There is no indemnity for farmers, for landowners against these pipelines. That is something that I believe Sandy Salmon put in her bill that she tried to get through the legislature. Unfortunately, it got nowhere. But it's just interesting how some lobbyists have more power than others. Well, the last thing I want to ask about is, was there anything, I haven't read the raccoon bill, was there anything in there about how the raccoons should be terminated?
No,
Okay,
no, it was just, they want to they want to reduce the numbers of raccoons. And they're saying that they're pests, they're harmful to their land. And so in order to create a system of, here's the reason why you should do it, because you get $5. So I don't even think that went through Ways and Means, because you would think it would have to, because it would have a financial impact. But
well, thank you, because yeah, like I said, I'm not up on that one, but I wanted to say I have a daughter who's a veterinarian. And she says that when animals are poisoned, it is a horrible, horrible death. Because basically it destroys the animal from the inside out. They bleed, their organs disintegrate, and they bleed to death. And so, you know, if there's any anything, you know, about discussion with raccoons and stuff, need to really kind of outlaw the use of poisons, because that's also affects any other wildlife, any other domestic animals that might come in contact with it. My daughter says they don't have to eat it, you know, all that has to happen is that they have to, well, for example, cats, 'cause I have cats. And my daughter told me, all that my cats would have to do is step in it, and then of course cats lick their paws, and that is enough poison to kill them. You know, children, who knows?
Yeah, it's sad.
So I just want to put that out there. And then, Eric, if that report is available for the public, I'd like to have a copy of that.
It is, yeah, it's online, actually. I can try to send. Well, let's talk afterwards. I'll get
You betcha.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I can just say something about the raccoons and the poison. My neighbor used to feed them because she thought they were cute. And they would accumulate in large numbers. In fact, she told me she had 22 in her porch. And then it spread, the mange spread amongst them, and they all started dying off. And then she accused me of killing them. I live trapped them and took them 10 miles away and let them loose. And then I've been talking to farmers and said, well, they started spray painting the backs of them. They took them 10 miles away and they came back. They found their way back. And they're good swimmers. And so I think the concentration in our neighborhood caused people to want to poison them. In 1 week's time, I found 2 dead raccoons, a possum, and a fox all on my property. So that told me somebody put poison out. And I don't know how many cats, because.
Well, and the reason why I brought that up was not necessarily the raccoon piece, but it was, this is what they're focused on, environmental protection. That's why I brought it up. So.
My name is Priscilla Neiman and I'm a Wellington resident. I advocate for a whole bunch of issues and the one today is very important to me. What is happening in our environment is drastically changing what's happening to the children who are being born. A Roundup professor of MIT has put her professional reputation on the line. By 2025, she's saying 1 in 2 children will be born with autism. My data on that subject was by 2050 that was going to happen. So this is something, and I've talked to people who are thinking about having children. They are not getting the type of medical care they need to prevent such conditions as autism, ADD, and ADHD, which are on the rise. Another group gets angry with me thinking I'm talking eugenics, and I'm not. I am talking about the health and welfare of our incoming children. What is UNI doing? They're not preparing for this at the teacher education level. What's the University of Iowa doing? Are they preparing their doctors for this? Here in Blackhawk County, we don't even have a pediatric neurologist. So, you know, these environmental issues are on our front steps. I have 2 cousins who are Gen Z and millennial. I just tell them, you're too poor to have kids. Because this costs money.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
My first question is it okay to talk about?
Can you get in?
Is it okay to talk about something other than?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay.
Name first.
My name is Maureen Hansen and I'm on the board of directors for the Cedar Central Rivers AEA. Central Rivers AEA, and I've talked here once before, and I just, Senator Dotson and Senator Giddens, I know you are opposed to this bill, but I just would like to speak about it a little bit and give you some questions, and if you need more questions, there are so many questions around this bill. And by the way, as far as environment, I just have to tell you, my mother passed away in October, and we've been going through all of the things, and for the environment, she had about 100 VHS tapes, and those are hazardous waste, and I didn't know that till I started looking it up, and so we're just, today, we boxed up those tapes, and we're sending them to Green Disc, and paying $33 for processing, for them to be recycled and reused, and $45 to ship, so it's not cheap, but there are ways to get rid of them anyway, so it'd be nice if there was something closer. But there are so many good things going on, and the AEAs are one of them, and so here's the question, or at least some of them, I have pages of questions. But does our legislature no longer believe in local control?
No,
Do we?
not in the house.
Well, do we really think the Department of Education knows what's best for each child?
No.
And that they should be in charge of the AEAs? Why are we trying to consolidate power at the Department of Education? And then, does anybody think that more oversight is gonna improve anything? That's like weighing the pig more times to hope it's gonna gain weight, right?
Well, the request was made that we would put together a study group before even doing this bill. And then include the AEAs and maybe some superintendents and other people in the state to come back with recommendations to improve the AEAs, you know, and they just refuse to do it. And the bill itself, the AEA bill, had language in there for supplemental state aid, which was 2.5, which we had 3 that we passed, but the Senate Republicans didn't want it. So the supplemental state aid piece, and then there was the piece on teacher salaries. And then they created the language in the bill on the AAs. And the biggest restriction that they're doing is the director of the Department of Ed, who has never been a teacher in a classroom, she worked for Betsy DeVos, is now going to be in charge of this decision. And you know, it's just going to be harmful overall to children, to parents, to school districts. So to me, I was so frustrated the way that this came to us in the way that they did it. And you know, there was nothing we could stop them on, although we chatted with them about it and called them out for an hour and a half. But it's so, I mean, if you see something that's working and then somebody comes in wants to make changes, you just try to explain to them, they're not listening to anybody on this. It's frustrating.
Keep going.
I keep going with questions, okay, chief administrator salaries should be based on the amount of responsibility they have, not on the average salary of the superintendents in the AEA. It makes no sense. There will be superintendents in the AEA with fewer kids, fewer people reporting to them that are gonna be making more money, and that doesn't make any sense to me. I don't understand why professional development funds are moving to the DE. Do they know better than the local district what professional development is needed, and they aren't able to provide it in a timely manner that works within the school district with the teachers not having to take time off or add extra days to the school calendar. And then the DE has to approve professional development if they want it from the AEA, even if it's the same thing they're gonna buy from an outside company. If the AEA is providing it from that outside company at a time that works better for the school district, they still have to get permission from the Department of Education. I don't understand that. And then I really don't care if I'm not on the board anymore. I have loved being on the board, but this bill does away with the board. It becomes advisory. And so who's going to approve contracts for the AEA? Who's going to do that? Is that going to be the Department of Education? I don't understand how that's going to work. And Where does the legislature provide funds for non-public schools to pay for the AEA services? They currently get them. That's not clear to me from the bill. Who's going to be paying for the non-public schools, where that's going to come from? Our current digital resource, RFP, contracts with vendors, the AEAs, annually at a cost of $2.5 million. 60% of the media funding isn't going to cover that. So how are we going to maintain our quality and reliability instructional supports for students and children that way? And then how can you hold the AEA responsible for the achievement gap in the future if districts don't even have to use the AEA? That makes no sense. And what data does anybody have that for service, that fee for service and hiring consultants from businesses is going to be more economical, more effective, more efficient? I haven't seen any data from any states that supports that. And then finally, my last question, and then I wanted to say a couple things, is what research supports any part of this bill addressing the original stated student achievement for special ed students in Iowa? I don't see any of that. And so, like I said, we don't have special needs. I've never had a special needs child, but we did have TAG children, and they benefited from AEA services. And all students benefit from the AEA. But so, have you heard of Brene Brown? Have you guys heard of Brene Brown? Brene Brown. She's an American professor. She's out of Texas, actually. She's a social worker. She's authored 6 #1 New York Times best-selling books. And she really believes that people are doing the best that they can. And she was asked, you know, does she believe serial killers and terrorists are doing the best that they can? And her response was, yes, I do believe that. And it's dangerous, and that's why they need to be put in prison. And we need to see if we can help them. And so my question is, if we have legislators who are doing their best, and they don't vote for what the vast majority of their constituents, they don't listen to the superintendents in their district when they tell them about how a bill is going to hurt students in their school districts. They aren't willing to, they are willing to remove local control and concentrate it in Des Moines. They are willing to implement a system without any research showing it's going to address the problems. And they lack the courage to vote how they know they should vote when they're getting pressured. Well, then I believe if that's the best they can do, we need to vote them out.
We're gonna do a question. Jerome?
Before I lose this train of thought, one of the things that I really feel needs to happen is start paying attention. Go to your internet, pull up the Iowa legislature. You can go and you can, like the debates that we had last night, you can go in the archives and watch those debates. And you can see exactly what's going on down there. Timmy, I was so proud of you for what you said last night. But you have to understand, those individuals that are voting the way that they're voting because one person wants them to vote that way. It's not the people of Iowa, it's one person, and I think you all know who I'm talking about. So you are exactly right. You have to pay attention. You have to put people in place who have our best interests at heart.
Eric, questions?
No, I just want to thank Maureen. Sorry. Thank you so much, Maureen, for your service, and I feel like you said it all. Appreciate you feeding us with those questions that we can try to utilize.
You did a great job.
Yeah, no, thank you. It will likely come up first of the week in the Senate, you know, the bill that just came over from the House. So we'll see how it goes, but we're on your side. So thank you.
Senator Dosser?
Yeah, thank you for your comments, and they were right on, actually. Our director Snow only has a bachelor's degree in political science. And now, in fact, Senator Donahue, who's an educator, who works with kids with disabilities, and is kind of an expert on this, and pointed out that she does not even have the qualifications to analyze or review any of the people that are working underneath her. And because her only, claim would be working with the boss who wanted to get rid of public education. So when we see that, there's real problems. We don't have enough votes to stop it. But there is a provision within the code that says in the Senate, you could have a subcommittee, have a review and a kind of a public hearing, but the public couldn't ask any questions. They could submit, and it was only the subcommittee members that could do it. Well, they filed that yesterday, and they scheduled the committee for 7:30 on Friday morning. When nobody's there.
Tuesday.
It's
7:30 Tuesday.
Oh, Tuesday, okay. So at 7:30 in the morning, nobody comes to Capitol. We're gonna be able to at least get some public input in it and kind of expose this. But she's gonna get confirmed. There, and so your points were right on. I mean, they are right on. And one of the things that's wrong, and there was a Supreme Court ruling on this on another bill, is our Constitution says that bills should only have a single subject. And the Supreme Court ruled against this some time ago, and it was called log rolling. And the term comes from what you would think, people who were actually sawyers and stuff, moving logs down the river, and they got competition. So somebody stands on a log and they spin it one way, and the next guys, they're trying to spin them off their log or their position. So this is what this is about. So I'm all for teacher salary increases. I'm not for 2.5% allowable growth. I'm not for the AEA bill. So I'm going to vote no, but the next campaign, Senator Bill Dotzler voted against teacher salary increases. And they'll have a little number down there and it'll be true. And so there are people in the Senate that weren't going to vote for this bill that are under a lot of pressure for that same reason. So I'm going to bring it up, talk about it. It's something that's kind of a dirty tricks tool. And there's the Supreme Court statement that they made about it. And I'm going to read that to them. I mean, your questions are right on. We've got senators and we're all going to fight it as long as we can. We suspect that they're going to time serve us too, because they don't want to hear it. They don't want the public out there to know. And the last time we had the bill, I ended my conversation basically was what Bob's been saying is you're not listening to me and you're not listening to your public. And it will list the bills that have gone through there that the majority of Iowans didn't want to change, and they did it. And I brought up the crazy train thing, that they added another car to the crazy train of bills. And eventually their engine is not going to be able to pull it if they do what you just said. Listen and see how people are and vote them out if they're not represent the people of the state of Iowa and what they want.
I'd have to share just briefly. It was the most frustrating thing that I've experienced down there in the morning. Thursday. It was terrible. Anyway.
The memo is 49 pages, and we had no amendment going into Thursday morning. Nothing had been drafted. We had no amendment at noon, and at about 3 o'clock, we saw an amendment. It had not been filed, but it was the written piece that our staff and our ed heads could start going through. And then at 4:55, Pat and Matt Winchell, Representative Pat Grassley came down to our leadership office and asked us how long our debate would be. And we said, well, we're just finishing the amendment, going through the amendment. We've got to go to caucus and then come up. And so they said, well, we're going to time certain at 6:30. So, and that was always the intent. Remember, there were basketball games in Omaha.
Yeah.
And those people left so quick to get to that game, it wasn't even fun.
Yep.
So that was the priority that day, is to cram that through, not get any input from the Iowans, and ignore the hundreds, and that's not an exaggeration, hundreds of emails that we received, and then to throw that into the stack to the Senate. Now, I will tell you that on Thursday morning, this was an agreed to amendment from the Senate. That was a lot. We asked on the floor, has the Senate agreed to this, and this? Well, we have talked to senators and we assume that's going to move forward. So no, the answer to that question is no. And so it's not been agreed to. So here's my next fear, is that the Senate's going to amend it, not the Senate Democrats, the Senate Republicans are going to amend that and even make it worse than it is today. And because we have bounced it now back and forth, what I said the first damn time we debated this was, how committed are we to keeping this bill the first time whole? And of course, Representative Wheeler stood up and told me, yes, Timmy, I'm committed. And then of course he changed it because he wrote the friggin' amendment yesterday. And what will happen is this ends up in a room with 5 people. And so then it does get worse, people. So from what we saw when we had it for the first time in the House, then we amended it again, and we called it a bounce over from the Senate with an agreement, which was not true, coming back over to you guys. I'm very afraid that the Senate Republicans are going to amend it again. It'll end up in a room. So that's. Yeah. I call it the little room with 5 people who decide what they want and don't want, and that's not what Iowans want. And I was very clear on the floor with my remarks yesterday. We are sorry if it sucks.
Those conference committees, they might have 5 people.
Yeah.
But none of them decide. It's the leaders.
Yeah.
The majority leader. I've been on them and I know. We were fighting over commercial property taxes, and there was 3 Democratic senators on it, myself, Senator Bolcom, and Senator McCoy, and we were trying to bring down the major commercial tax and help the small businesses and kind of balance that out a little bit. And we only had 1 meeting. And the press came up to me and it said, what do you think about the agreement? I mean, I was like babbling. What agreement? And it was the majority leader in the Senate, Senator Gromstall, and the Speaker of the House, Senator Paulson, did the whole thing without us having anything to say about it. So that's probably going to happen. Now, we thought in the Senate, we would be debating it like you did on Thursday. The Senate Republicans went to caucus and they were in there for better part, close to 2 hours, wouldn't you say, Senator Giddens? And when they came out, it turned out that the majority leader couldn't answer half the questions they had. So they put it off and you took it. So we don't know if they want to make it worse or they're okay. They got their question. So when we go back, who knows? So there it is. We're gonna, whatever we do, and we've got some including Senator Giddens, and understand education and a bunch of educators on there, and we're gonna fight like hell. But in the end, they don't listen to us. They don't listen to you.
Any further? Next question.
My name is Anna Crenshaw. I'm a teacher for deaf and hard of hearing with Central Rivers Area Education.
Yeah.
So I might have to select but I am so happy I was here tonight, because I didn't know you were gonna speak. But I am a part of the Garden in Every Lot community here. I signed up with you guys your first year. You came to my house. I remember you. I still have your card on my fridge. They tilled up my yard. They helped me with seeds. They helped me with plants. This is gonna be my 4th year of doing it. I increased my space last year, and I've been growing, vegetables for my community. Like, I've been giving them to my neighbors, and it's really important to me. So I'm really, really glad that I got to see you again, and it made a big change in my life. So that's why I feel like all of this is connected, right? All of this is connected. One thing is, I've lived in Waterloo for 8 years now. This is my 8th year here. This is the longest I've ever lived anywhere in my life. I've lived a lot of places. I've lived a lot of states. I've been overseas. I plan to retire here. And now I don't know. You know, like, I'm sorry, I'm not a crier, but.
I cry all the time. You're gonna make me cry.
But like, I'm doing such good work with the AEAs. I love my AEA. That's why I'm here. That's my plan. I foster teenagers. I'm teaching my teenagers how to grow vegetables. And we're poisoning our children. And it feels like the government doesn't care. It feels like no one in Des Moines cares that we're trying. And we're doing our best, and that you have to sign up for millions of grants just to try and do the work that you're doing. And if the AEAs get cut, we're just gonna have to make it work. I shouldn't have to do that. I shouldn't have to decide between doing what I love and staying here and working with the kids that I love so much. And having to leave the state if I need to be able to do what I love. And I don't want to do that. Sorry. I'm not a crier, I promise you, but I just. I appreciate you guys being here and listening.
See what you did to us? We love you. You're what Iowa needs. We need you here.
And that's what I want, is for the state to hear us. And not think about raccoons and horses. But to think about my deaf kids who need someone in their schools to work with them. If we don't have the AEAs, I can't work in 4 different school districts. That's not gonna work, because they can't hire me individually. And I wanna continue the work that I'm doing in my community, and I just installed solar panels. Like, I wanna stay here, and I want to continue working this community and the love that we have in this community. I really want government to see that and to keep us.
We do. Any other questions?
Next question. Hello, everyone. My name is Mike Miller, and I'm going to run through the Blackhawk County Soil and Water Conservation District. And I came here tonight to probably just introduce myself, but I've also introduced myself to the frustration that our people have down in Des Moines. I knew it was frustrating, and I don't know how to fix it. I do know how to fix our local level, what we're doing here with the soil and water, what Kemener's doing and all of that. And it appears to me tonight that that's the only way we're gonna get something done. But I'm on the ballot, eeny, meeny, miny, moe side. Give me a shout.
Any other questions for our panel?
Mike, I just wanted to say the fact that you showed up means a lot to me. So thank you.
I am Tom Shelby from Waterloo. And, when you hear stories like jamming out positive things are going on, you just want to stand up here. A friend of mine said, about back something. This is the finest YouTube video I've ever seen on farming and environment. You gotta see it. It's 10 farms, so I Googled it. And, Cedar is, he's a farmer in southwest Iowa, around Florinda. And he speaks to all these issues that you're talking about here, with his own experiences with generations of farmer. All he raises 600 beef cattle, a large farm. And he has genetic issues with his kids. He talks about water, what farming is, and when you hear him speak, you go like, yes, this is what Iowa farmers are and what they should be. And he talks about sustainable farming. We don't want to not only grow crops, but we should be growing soil, we should be growing water, we should be growing biodiversity. And he does it with his actions and through all these ups and downs through years of farming and the changes that he had to make. And now he makes a good profit, enough where he can send another challenge student to genetic challenge to bring out to college. So I have enough. So I would recommend you looking at that. I see this, I see, every legislator, particularly our farming legislator, should watch this. It's half an hour, 45-minute video on YouTube. Again, get 10 farms. Yes.
Cook, P-E-N.
P-I-N-H-O-O. It's my Wisconsin accent. Yeah. And,
I found this on the web.
yeah, it's word, and believe it or not, he says, I never think I'd ever say this as a farmer, as a generational farmer. But, my roadblocks are Farm Bureau and Cattlemen's Association. And he belongs out with the practical farmers, I've got some awards, but it's neat. But I wanted to have a couple of questions that, if I may, and, Pat Bradley had a forum and at a convenient time at 9 o'clock in the morning for an hour with Allison. So I went. And,
Back from the game, is he?
yeah, this is about a month ago, actually, and so I just was, and he's running again, he announced that he's gonna run again, because he wants to serve people. So like, he serves other, I don't know where he is, and I'd love to have him here, because I was dumbfounded by the answer I got from my question. I thought maybe I didn't hear him right, but this is my take on it. So I asked Pat, this is what's the, with Reed, it's one of the most democratic processes you could ever imagine. Many of you have been there. And I really thank you for your service, because you've heard everybody by being here and answering everybody's questions. Really appreciate it. So I asked him about Reed. This is it's the most democratic process, and we gather and make decisions, and every year it comes back saying, fully funded Reed, leave the formula alone. Every year it's the same thing, not gonna accept it. So it says here we have like $1.8 billion in reserve, like a small tiny fraction of that, like 6% maybe, could fully fund Reed. So that was the holdup. He looked at me and he said, well, you have to understand we're the farmers that could use this land. Referring to like the DNR or be buying land that young farmers could use for a better purpose. And I just don't know how to call the answer, and I said, no, let's read this for like enhancing and improving our parks and museums and helping the DNR do the job that they want. You just stare at me as though we're gonna have to agree to disagree, but I couldn't believe the answer. So, and then I hear this so often, and everyone mentioned about the most important thing we could do is get out and vote. And it's not only for you guys, but it's for our local people too, down supervisors, going in another county, not here, because it's a good support here, I think, conservation things.
You know, the reality is, if we had some of the people that were invited to come to this discussion, you could ask them, but if you look up here, they're all Democrats.
Right.
Here. Okay, but your point that you're making, those are the people you need to tell that to. We're all in on it with you.
I know.
Okay.
Yeah, so my question goes to like, what is the holdup? Is that the real holdup for fully funding REAP when we have the money? And what is this myth about, DNR and groups like Auto Venture, Heritage Foundation, stuff, taking away, land that could be better used by young farmers? And that's a myth. And it goes down to supervisors here. We're gonna hear this thing all around. Well, we need to sell some of the public land that we already have in the county when they can't. They just don't get it. And I don't get it. What do you say?
Response?
Well, yeah, to hear Speaker Grassley talk about that, about the young farmers trying. When farm ground's going for $20,000 to $30,000 an acre, there's no young farmer ever gonna be able to buy a piece of ground. And the ground that we're talking about isn't farmable anyway. I mean, so they're just using that, like it's some kind of oh my God, these poor young people. Well, I got news, corporate America and the rest of the world is looking at what food production is gonna be and what the costs are and where they can make money. They wouldn't be paying $30,000 an acre unless there's some big money in there and big corporations, and here, I'm not surprised at all about what Grassley said, because they don't understand. I mean, it's taking care of historical stuff too, they don't even have a clue. And, but it's all back to one thing. We have cut tax structure till there's nowhere else to go. The long range of projections are less than $1 billion going to be disappear. And they have to cut everything in order to sustain that. And they know it can't be sustained. So they're doing two things. One, they got resolutions, one saying that we're going to vote twice on that you can never raise income taxes in the state of Iowa, which sounds like a good thing if you also stop from raising property tax and sales tax. So those are the two most unfair taxes, income tax fares. And number two, a resolution that says that once they hit their flat tax bottom, you can never change that structure. So you couldn't go back to what fairness was. The more you make, you pay more. Poor people pay less. They want that stopped too.
Well said. Thank you.
Thank you.
We are about out of time. This is the last forum during this legislative session. Well, if we end up running a little late, I'm going to throw this in here. Again, I want to thank the 23 sponsors for the Cedar Valley Legislative Public Forum. Jerome, you want to start? I think we got time for about 1 minute per legislator.
Sure, this won't take me long at all. Once again, November's coming up. Oh.
Thank you all. You guys are the folks that pay the most attention out of anybody in this county, really show up on Friday evenings at 4:30, 6:30. So we're very grateful for your engagement, and we want you to know that. Yeah, hopefully we can finish the session relatively soon. Get a budget, and we hear there's gonna be a tax bill, and glad Bill kind of explain that that is the issue with why our priorities are not being funded is because there is a drive to cut taxes down past the bone. We've already done that, not we, but the legislature's already done that pretty substantially, and there's a push to get down to zero income tax, and I really don't think they're gonna stop until they get there. So you can't fund things like REAP and other priorities like education and Medicaid reimbursement, and list goes on and on. If you're not gonna generate any revenue for the state, so. Thank you again. Please reach out if we can ever try to be helpful with, policymaking is pretty tough for our side right now, but there's a whole nother side of what we do that we call constituent services. And that's just being responsive to our constituents and trying to help you if you're dealing with anything. Please reach out. We're happy to try to help you with anything we can. So thank you.
I know 60 seconds is a lot to ask, but
It's really, it hurts my heart, but I just want to thank you. Knowledge is kind of power. You hear what we're going through and what's going on in the legislature. It's kind of up to you to have your own forums with your neighbors and friends and let them know what's going on. And thank you for coming. This is my 28th year of doing these forums, and a lot of you have been there for every one of them. But I hate to admit how old that we all are, but we're still fighting, aren't we, Pat? Thank you.
I just thank everybody for coming. We are, this is a tough group up here, actually. I mean, even though Bill and I cry a lot, but when I'm pissed off, I don't cry.
Oh.
But this is a good group. I mean, and so please continue to reach out. That is what fuels us, actually. And we do listen to our constituents, and we do share our constituents on the floor, and we do vote the way our constituents ask us to vote. So we understand that we are responsible for 33,000 people in our district, and I don't ever take that lightly. So thank you for everything that you guys do for us.
Thank you to everyone at Cedar for your presentation and the others that have got up and spoke on the environmental issues. I just want to bring up a topic, and that was our last forum, was mental health. And that's one of the areas that we're really not adequately providing those services across the state. And I'm on the Allen Child Protection Center board. We had a meeting today, and that was part of our discussion. They're just having a hard time getting the staff and the people and the process to help with children that are physically or sexually abused. So, and I appreciate all your time today, and I guess this is the last forum for this session. So please reach out to us. Come to Des Moines. Talk to some of the colleagues that weren't here today. Maybe that'll be a good strategy. Thank you.
thank you for coming. This now concludes our forum this evening.
I did, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Just whatever. I mean, there's just
That was like, I refuse
People are environmental council 500 ammunition for the fighting. I said, look, if a child sees a baby and child sees that is defective.
You're fine, no.
You wouldn't want that.
Yes, yes.
Like for your baby.
It's just the company that created it. They want.
They're defective. They're like by nature, there's nothing you can't make them safe, they're like neurotoxins. You're talking about, and we don't have that, that's the biggest argument.
Well, that's why I want to see that video.
Was showing.
They think that. Yeah, that's the point I want to make, that's